planning for retirement used to be fairly predictable, but times are changing and we are facing money problems today that didn't exist decades ago. Nick Foulks from Great Waters Financial joins us to explain some of those differences and some tips on how we can get ahead. We could use those. I could use those. Nick, nice to see you again.
Great to see you as well.
Let's talk about this. What is different today when it comes to saving for our retirements?
Yeah, so this is the world I live in and day out. I'm a retirement planning architect, wealth manager for Great Waters Financial, and one of the biggest components that really changed was income planning for people. You know, there was a time period where Social Security, pensions, that kind of covered most of the living expenses. So the retirement money was really just the fun money. It was, you know, do we want to go golfing? Do we want to play tennis? Do we want to go on vacation? Should we buy that cabin?
Sure.
But today, the world has really changed, right? Social Security is only covering about 45% of your cost of living. Pensions are somewhat of a thing of the past.
Right.
There's less than 20% of Americans today that actually have pensions. So the times have changed, and it's really important for people to be creating their own plans to stay in place.
Makes sense, and yeah, you're right about the pension thing, and boy, that's tough for people who were relying on that before.
Yeah,
so
definitely.
how has healthcare also changed over the past few decades? We know it's certainly gotten more expensive.
Yeah, so if we just look over the last 5 decades, right, the healthcare costs have skyrocketed and annual incomes are not even keeping up close to that. So if we go back to like 1960, average cost for a person for healthcare was about $146. Today, and when we look at the 2016 survey, that's $10,000 per person per year.
Wow.
So that is a huge component of planning that you have to think through, right? So it's not just about maybe I should diversify my investments. We also have to think through maybe I need to diversify my buckets of money and what they're going to do for me, because the average retiree today will spend about $280,000 on healthcare costs, not including the nursing home inside of retirement.
Right, and we know Walgreens stays busy because a lot of people are buying their prescription drugs in.
Exactly.
And we also think about debt. We know debt has become a bigger problem. We know what happened with a lot of people in '09 with debt,
Yep.
And that's much different than it was in the past.
Oh, yeah, definitely. You know, in the past, people had the checkbook, and the checkbook
Right.
had the balance.
That's right.
Because if the money wasn't in there, you just didn't go buy it. But then in the 1970s, we got introduced to credit cards, and all of a sudden, people had this ability to go and purchase now and pay later. Well, if we go back in time, 1960 again, we can look and see that the average debt per person was about $4,000. Today, we see that closer to $135,000 per person.
Wow.
So it's important to understand things like debt snowballs, where you can pay off low credit card balances and adding additional payments to that, and then taking that payment plus the additional payment you were using and moving on to the next biggest balance, and really carving out that debt and making sure that you're getting rid of it as you move closer to retirement. Otherwise, that's really kind of like an anchor while you're trying to set sail.
Boy, isn't that true? And I remember so well my mom, my sister saying to my mom, well, she said, well, you don't have money for that right now. My sister saying, well, just write a check. And my mom's like, well, you have to have money in your account to write a check.
Yeah.
Just write a check. But that was then, this is now. And so how do all these changes affect baby boomers who we know are now entering retirement?
Yeah, so I always tell people, everybody's going to end up somewhere. Not everyone will end up somewhere on purpose. It has never been more critical for baby boomers to have a retirement plan in place. So that's what we specialize in as an example, to think about what is your income plan? What are you going to do for Social Security? There's over 500 different ways to take Social Security. What are you going to do for your tax plan? And then what are you going to do for healthcare planning? Do your investments correspond to the income needs that you have right now? So we provide those comprehensive plans. If people have questions, they can check out our website, greatwatersfinancial.com. It's going to show a lot of our upcoming retirement classes and courses that they can actually attend, get better educated about retirement planning, but get yourself on a path that retirement isn't thrust upon you, but instead you've planned for retirement and where you want to be.
Well, and you make a good point, because it's a fine-tuning for each individual. It's no cookie-cutter approach, because we all have different financial needs.
Absolutely.
Yeah, excellent.
Absolutely.
Nick Foulks from Great Waters Financial, thanks for being here today.
Always
Good
a
to see you
pleasure.
again. Yep. For all things financial, you can go to Nick's website. It is greatwatersfinancial.com. That is greatwatersfinancial.com. Appreciate it.
Oh, pleasure.